Hi everyone, welcome to Learning Impact. In today's lecture, we will discuss types of culture that include material culture, non-material culture, ideal and real culture, subculture and counterculture, and popular culture and high culture. So let's start. Okay, first is that how can we define culture? Culture of a group consists of shared socially learned knowledge and patterns of behavior. It means culture is shared means that it is a collective phenomena. It is shared by majority members of the society. And it is socially learned means that it passed down through the socialization and enculturation. And culture is knowledge means it includes all the information about the practices, about the way of life that people follow, and also that it is the patterns of behavior because as culture is shared by majority members of the society, so these people who share the similar culture, they show some resemblance in their patterns of behavior, like their perception towards celebrating different festivals, like how they celebrate Eid, and also that how they do greeting and all the other ways of life. So we can say that culture of a group is the shared socially learned knowledge and the patterns of behavior of that, because as it is shared by the majority people of the particular group, so then they show some resemblance in their patterns of behavior also. Okay, so the examples of culture is the like buildings which reflect our infrastructure, that is our material culture. Then in case of the classical music, that is high culture because it is patronized by the elite class. And storytelling, which is part of our folk culture because it is tied to our historical practices. So this is culture and its example. We have to look into detail of the types of the culture. Okay, first type of the culture is the material culture. Material culture can be defined as natural and the human created objects to which people attach meaning. As it refers to objects means anything that is visible, that we can see, that is in concrete form, it is our material culture. So that things it may be natural objects or maybe the human created objects. For example, in case of the natural objects, like many indigenous cultures, they use items like stones, rivers or mountains which they view as sacred and they hold spiritual significance. As we have discussed in definition that people attach meaning to the natural and human created objects. So in case of the natural objects, when people they attach some kind of meaning, like they feel that this mountain is sacred or they have some perception it holds some spiritual significance, then in that way it is considered a material culture, that is about the natural objects. For example, the Mount Fuji in Japan and Uluru in Australia. Then in case of the human created objects, it includes all the other things that we use and that we can see, like the school buildings, the jewelry, the clothing, the dresses, the pen that I use for writing, the pages that I use for writing, even the devices that we use. These all are material culture because these are in the form, the concrete form to which people attach different meanings. In case of the material culture, it includes both natural objects and the human created objects, and we attach different meaning to different things, and then in particular way we use that. It all depends our priority and our perception towards the things. So this is our material culture. Then in case of the non-material culture is a culture that refers to the norms, laws, customs, ideas and belief of it. It refers to all the ideas, and that is something internal, that is about our mental component, that include norms, laws, customs, ideas and beliefs of a group of people. That is something internal, so it cannot be said as it has no concrete form. But in case of the non-material culture, it includes appropriateness of wearing certain clothes for specific events. For example, our choices are our non-material culture. The factors that affect that shape our choices is also non-material culture. It is all the norms and the customs and the prevailing ideas in a society that shape our ideas towards particular things. So for example, if we give priority to one cloth over another for specific event, it is part of our non-material culture, as it is our part of our choice. So in case of the non-material culture, it is abstract and it often transmitted through language and socialization, as it is intangible things and it is intangible concepts and beliefs. So it passed down through the socialization, also through language, because language is also part of our non-material culture, and it also influences our social cohesion, our moral values, and also shape our identities, because it also includes moral laws of the society, that what is wrong, what is right, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate. So it is all shaped by our belief. So if we can say that it actually defines our moral codes also, so that's why we can say that it influences our identities and our social cohesion. And also non-material culture adapts to shifting norms of the society, society, whenever society norms get shifted, non-material culture also adapted to that because it evolved over time as long as there is a change in a normative shift in the society. And also that how people perceive things and how they give priority of one thing to the over another and shaping the personal identity, this is all influenced by our non-material culture. It can also spread and impact our belief system. Okay, so the examples of our non-material culture is our religion, art, ideas, customs, values, systems, attitudes, and our knowledge. Acceptance of paying for transportation. This is our non-material culture. And the metro passage use is our material culture. Similarly, teaching methods and the educational standard, this is our non-material culture. So this is all about the non-material. So the teaching methods and the educational standards are also part of our non-material culture. Also, the appropriateness of wearing certain clothing for specific events is non-material culture. Then in case of the ideal culture refers to the norms, values, and behavior that a society aspires to hold. This is a standard that we set and then we try to achieve to that standard. That is our ideal culture. That is a perfect state. For example, it represents the socially approved standards and expectations within a society, and it is a kind of utopian idea, like it reflects an idealized vision of how people should interact and behave. For example, in case of the gender equality, we have ideal culture, that is, there should be complete parity, equal representation of male and female in almost all services, and also there should have social economic parity, equal pay for equal work, and shared domestic responsibilities. These are all the ideal culture. It is a perfect state, and our society usually aspires to hold that. But in reality, what is the fact or the reality on the ground? That is our real culture. Also, in case of the educational system, we have some kind of utopian ideas and this perfect standards that we have said, that is the equal access to high quality education, highly qualified teachers should be there. Also, there should be technologically advanced classrooms and no influence of socio-economic background. This is the standards that we set, but most of the education system always shows some flaws and they are unable to reach to that standards perfectly. It is impossible to reach to these standards perfectly. That's why it is known as a kind of utopian idea, hypothetical, because it portrays the ideal standards that one should reach to. What mostly happen as a result, the ground reality that reflect is part of our real culture. Okay, so the ideal culture often represented in official document, educational materials, and the public speeches that is more formal, and also that it represents future vision for society, it shapes the society goals. Also, it acts as a guiding principle, and also that it has advantages like it helps us to understand morality and ethics. It leads to the inspiration, innovation, cohesion, and guiding vision. Okay, so this was all about our ideal culture that reflect that what should we do, how should we behave in a society, what should be the standard of education, what should be the standards of the gender equality in a society. This is all the standards that a society aspires to. On the other hand, there is a real culture which reflects our ground reality. It refers to the actual behavior, customs, and practices that people exhibit in their daily lives. Means the actual behavior and customs and practices. What is the ground reality of the society? That is the real culture. Like we have set some guideline and the perfect standards for the education system. But what is the reality on the ground? Like for example, in case of the education system, although we have set some kind of utopian standards, but there is always inadequate funding, unequal access, teacher shortage, outdated facilities, and lack of resources. These are natural. Like it might depend on a type of society, either it is developed or underdeveloped, but it is mostly that in each society there is a room for education system is not always as perfect as it is portrayed in ideal culture. It will always have room for teacher shortage and outdated facility. This is natural, and as there are some flaws, there is always a possibility of flaws in education system. That's why the government also needs to focus on it consistently. Then in case of the gender equality, as we have set some kind of standards, but still in the ground reality there is no society that can perfectly claim that they have achieved gender equality, because most of the society, women, they earn less than men. Now how much the gender disparity, how much the disparity is there, it depends on a kind of society. And also the women harassment in a workplace also the fact. So these are our real culture. So in case of the ideal culture, we define the standards, and in case of the real culture, we reflect on the reality, that what is the ground reality of the society. Then in case of the high culture can be defined as the pattern of cultural experiences and attitudes that exist in the highest class segment of the society. That we can say is the culture of the elite class. That's what is called as the high culture, because it is a practice by the elite class of the society that have more strong socioeconomic background. So in case of the high culture, it includes the ancient texts, historical architecture wonders, and the prestigious art institutions. And these are the people who have enough time to pass through the ancient text and who have also interest in exploring these things. In case of those who are from the low socioeconomic background, what are their major objectives in their life? They mostly are always in competition to be employed and to have enough pay so that they will survive. That's why it is considered the high culture and the low culture, they are in contrast to each other, because high culture, those people who have the strong socioeconomic background, they have enough time to splurge on the ancient text and these historical wonders and to pass to this. But in case of the other, that is the popular culture, it refers to a culture that is left over after we have decided that what is high culture. For example, in a society, if the ancient text is a high culture, then all the other texts that we use, like the literature and all the other, like which is popular, which is used by the majority masses of the society, that will be considered popular culture. So the leftover culture after what we have decided is high culture is our popular culture. For example, in case of the Hollywood movies, the social media platform, the cricket, festivals like Diwali and Holi, these are all the things that you might be observed that this is practiced by the majority of the people. For example, cricket. Cricket is a sport which is practiced by majority of the people in subcontinent. This is a popular culture of this area. Similarly, the Hollywood movies are mostly watched by the majority of the people. Like social media platforms are used by majority masses of the society. So these are the popular culture because they are used by many. But in case of the high culture, it is used by by the handful people, but these are those people who are influential, who are considered as the elite class of the society. So that is the high culture and this is the popular culture. Then the subculture. Whenever there is a main culture that is considered the mainstream culture, there is also another culture that emerge within that mainstream culture, that is the subculture. So whenever there is a small culture group within a large culture which is recognized by their unique style and norms, this is a subculture. Now their unique style and norms make them a distinguished culture. That's why we call it subculture. Like they must have some kind of styles and norms that are unique in a society. Otherwise, they will submerge in a main culture. So if they have these unique styles and norms, they will be termed as a subculture within a mainstream culture. For example, in case of the immigrant groups with a mother country, this is the subculture mostly in the Western countries. Also the Pashtun, Balochi, Sindhis and Punjabis, these are the subcultures in Pakistani society who also have distinguishing language, also have their different dressing, lifestyle, and also the food culture. Most of the styles and norms are different from each other. And also the rural urban cultures of the Pakistani society is different because of the impact of modernization and industrialization. So in case of the subculture, it is necessary to have unique identity so that it will distinguish that culture from the main culture. And on the other hand, there is a counterculture. If there is a subculture that exists with the mainstream culture, but that culture is in contrast to the mainstream practices, that will be called as a counterculture. For example, is a type of subculture that rejects some of the large culture norms and values. For example, the suffragist movement, that was a movement for the political rights for women. And also the Black Lives Matter, that mostly resurfaced in American society because most of the black people they mostly don't have equal rights as white people have. So the Black Lives Matter is a movement that mostly resurfaced in American society on different occasions. We have witnessed it. So it is a counterculture because it is challenging the mainstream culture. It is challenging their norms, their rules, their conduct of society. That's why it is called as a counterculture. Similarly, LGBT movement, which has now become more acceptable in a Western society, but still it also faces resistance from the mainstream culture. So it can be considered as the counterculture. So these are the most of the movements that emerge to challenge the mainstream, to challenge the major framework of the society, that is considered the counterculture. So this was all about the types of culture. So this was the end of our lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section below and like, share and subscribe our channel for latest lectures. Thank you.